Your first step when doing a male earwax is to cleanse using Waxperts cleanser on a clean damp cotton pad. So you're cleansing in and around the ear and doing the same on the other side. So with male earwaxing, the hair will vary from client to client. So a lot of older clients, you might have hair on the cuff of the ear, you might have a lot of hair protruding from just inside the inner ear canal. So it will really vary depending on each client. On this particular client, the majority of hair is quite fine, it's quite light, and it's down towards the earlobe and in and around the inner ear canal area. He doesn't really have any on the cuff of the ear or the outside of the ear. So I'm just applying my pre-wax oil with my fingers, working that oil into the surrounding skin and the hair itself and tissuing off any excess. So like all hot wax applications, the direction you apply your wax in will be determined by where you want to leave your lip for removal. So for this client on the ear that I'm working on, it will be down towards the earlobe where it's going to be most comfortable for me to remove and for the client. So starting my wax at the tragus area, I'm pushing and dragging those hairs down into my piece of wax and leaving my lip just at the side of the earlobe there. So that will be the easiest and most comfortable way for me to remove this wax patch. Because the wax patch was applied so thinly, it's already set and ready to be removed. So stretching down and pull, glide over the skin to remove any sting. And then my next patch of wax will be on the earlobe itself. So starting on the earlobe, and I'm going to work my wax out. So stretching the skin and placing my wax on and pushing it towards the beard line itself. So making sure to leave my lip and that nice hair-free area, so stopping the wax before it gets into any stubble. And that's a nice thin patch again, so it will set quite quickly. And now we're ready to remove. So again, stretching the skin, grabbing my tab and then pull. So now I'm just going to reapply some pre-wax oil to the areas that we just waxed to make sure that the skin has that nice slip and glide and that it's protected from any wax that I apply. Then my next patch is going to be down on the tragus area itself and working the wax in slightly to catch any stronger or hairs protruding out from the inner ear canal. So just working my wax and setting the wax in on top of those hairs. So very similar, this section of wax, to how you would apply your wax on a nasal area. Because the wax patch here is slightly thicker than the other areas of the ear, you can set it a little bit quicker by using your cotton pad with the cleanser from the start of the treatment. Then it's ready to be removed. And now my next patch of wax will be to just clear this area here. So a little bit of pre-wax oil on the top of the earlobe section. And now I'm going to just apply some wax, starting in the centre of the ear and then just working the wax over towards that nice hair-free area in between the tragus and the earlobe section. So these hairs here are actually quite fine, they're quite vellus. So a firm application and a thin application is really necessary to get rid of these finer, lighter hairs. So once this wax patch is set, we're going to stretch the skin and grip our lip for removal and pull. And I can see that the majority of the hair is gone from this ear. However, there's still some really light, finer hairs on the outside of the lower earlobe that would annoy me, probably annoy the client. So I just want to go over with a small piece of wax just to make sure I get those. So again, because the wax is so thinly applied, it sets quite quickly. So this is a very economical wax to use for these types of treatments because very little wax is used. You can be quite efficient with your time. To finish, I'm just cleansing the area. So with Waxperts cleanser on a cool damp cotton pad, this will just remove any pre-wax oil residue and cool and soothe the ear. So now we're on to the other side. So again, quick cleanse, and then I'm going to apply my pre-wax oil to protect the skin and to make sure that there's a nice slip and glide on there before I apply my wax. So again, you apply your pre-wax oil with your fingers in this treatment, no need to use a cotton pad. So really working the wax into the areas that this client has hair, which is again around the tragus area, the inner ear, and then the lower earlobe. He doesn't really have any hair at all up on the upper ear section. So first patch is starting at the tragus area and dragging those hairs down into my wax patch and leaving the lip for removal just above the earlobe in that nice hair-free area, making sure I don't get any of my wax into the stubble that's there. And again, the wax, because it's so thinly applied, it's ready for removal. So quick check to make sure it's fully set, stretch the skin and remove. My next wax patch will be on the earlobe itself, so starting in the centre of the earlobe and then dragging my wax across and leaving my lip for removal in that nice hair-free area below the tragus. So firm pressure and smooth that lip around. So no matter where you're working, whether it's eyebrows, nasal, ears, the direction you apply your wax will always be, where am I going to leave my lip for removal? So once you're working towards that nice hair-free area, you can really go in any direction whatsoever. Ready for the next patch on the earlobe. So working below our previous patch, I'm dragging my wax across down onto the thickest part of the earlobe and smoothing my lip around and leaving it in that nice hair-free area. So again, once you're pushing your wax in towards that nice hair-free area, again, you can go in any direction that you need to. So stretch the skin and remove. So this is quite an easy treatment to do. It's just following where your client has hair itself. It's a great service to offer in your salon because it's quite popular amongst men. It's a much easier treatment for them to have done in a salon rather than going with the trimmers that they use at home. It's a much smoother result. So my next step now is on the tragus and working those hairs into my wax patch that are slightly creeping out of that inner ear canal. So exactly like the way you would apply your wax on the nasal area, you do the exact same application here. So making sure that your wax patch is even and nice and consistent in thickness. If there's any weak spots, please go and get a small amount of product to reinforce your wax patch so it removes in one easy section for you. But it is quite an easy treatment to do. Once you take your time, you apply your wax patches in small sections and use firm pressure always. So I'm just double checking, do I need to go over any areas? I'm quite happy with the outer earlobe. There's a few tiny hairs in here at the inner ear section that I know once they get a bit of length into them, they will be quite obvious. So I just want to go back and get those hairs to make sure that everything is super smooth. So much easier for me to apply a small amount of product rather than go at the client with a tweezers. This is a much more easier option for me, for the client. Again, any weak spots in your patch, just reinforce that with a small amount of product. And if you need help to set your wax patch a little bit quicker, remember you can always use the cold cotton pad. I didn't need to here because it's set quite quickly, but that's always an option for you to use. So now my last step is to cleanse the area using Waxperts cleanser on a clean damp cotton pad. So this will cool and soothe the skin while also removing any residue of pre-wax oil. And that's it, we're done.